I've lost all of my pride. I've been to paradise and out the other side. With no...
Hello and welcome to Bitching About Movies, a topical episode. Son of a bitch, I am sick of these dolphins. If this is your first time listening to us, here's the deal. My name's Matt, and I am joined by...
Bye, Frank.
Yeah,
Hi.
and we like movies, and we like bitching about movies, and telling people what to watch and what not to watch. We like to think that we provide a valuable service here. Every single Monday, you get these cool What to Watch This Week episodes, or as the kids are calling them, TWs. Every single Monday, we're breaking down like what's coming out that week in theaters, what's coming to your various streaming services, plus a breakdown of like new and interesting trailers, reviews of what we've watched lately. We just let you know what's going on, and those are pretty standard. They're you get something different every week, but we like to think we talk about like more movies than any given movie podcast in a single episode.
I believe so. I mean, I think we almost watched 100 movies combined already.
Oh, definitely.
March has just ended, and we watched like 100 films this year. So
yeah. But sometimes we want to talk about a topic or a genre or a director or an actor. We want to focus in on something, and we don't want to, we want to devote some time to it. We don't want to stray away from that. So
topics are fun. It's a good excuse to have a movie marathon.
Yeah.
Or a lot of times we go back and see if our memory serves us right and if our opinion of a film holds up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or like, maybe crossing off some classics that one of us hasn't seen before, which definitely happened in this episode. So since we were both really excited for Isle of Dogs, which is Wes Anderson's new movie, we thought, we have a movie podcast. We like movie marathons. Let's talk about Wes Anderson.
Yeah, and I think he's come up before in our history. I haven't gone back, but, this is going to be part of a 2-part series. And, hopefully there'll be a 3rd part when he makes more movies. But we're going to attempt to go over and review all of his films in a short period of time, starting with part 1. And you made a choice, which I actually am a fan of. We didn't go chronological. In this podcast, we're just going to deal with 4 of, I believe, his 9 films he has.
Yes, 9, including Isle of Dogs, which we do have a fresh review of. It's in like limited theaters now, but it's going to be everywhere soon because, we'll get there in a bit. But spoiler alert, I loved it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you yet.
So we'll talk about it at the end of this episode.
Yeah, and as we usually do with new films, we'll briefly say if we recommend it or not, and then get into the spoilers.
Yes.
That way, if you're just trying to get that recommendation and you want to see the film on your own without spoilers.
Yeah, you can just pause it. You can just pause the episode there. We'll give you a little break, and then you can go and watch it, come back, finish off the episode, and enjoy it with us.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe. Who knows?
So we should start chronologically, right? You cool with that?
Yeah, as far as the ones that we watched, and we did 4 of the 9, like Frank said, and we started with 2001's The Royal Tenenbaums. Now, this is the one that I was referring to earlier when I said I actually haven't ever seen this movie, but it's considered a classic. I mean, everyone I know that likes Wes Anderson loves this fucking movie.
For shame. I thought you were a film snob, and I don't know about that anymore.
There's some stuff. There's some stuff I haven't seen. I was 11.
Okay, no excuses. Yeah,
I don't know, man.
And I guess when you got older, you didn't go back on this one.
This is a movie that I've like danced around before. It's always kind of been in orbit around me as something that I kind of would want to watch. I actually randomly had a DVD copy of this for a really long time that was unopened, and I just couldn't bring myself to open it and watch it. No, I didn't buy it. I just had a copy of it.
Films just end up in your house.
I'm pretty sure it was like lent to me by someone, and then I gave it back eventually, but it was like after 9 months of having it. So I had an opportunity several times. And
do you have any of my movies, speaking of?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so this one's available on HBO Go, HBO Now, the same sub, but if you have different versions. I watched it on DVD.
Of course you did.
Because I own the Criterion Collection, which is, I think almost every Wes Anderson film is a part of that set.
Yeah. As it should be, I guess.
Yeah, I bought it way back when, probably in 2001, pre-owned, at Blockbuster when there used to be those, and I was really excited for it when it came out. It was something new. I was a big Rushmore fan. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I like Rushmore a lot.
But
Yeah.
I was hyped for this because this was like, Wes Anderson with big famous actors.
Yeah, this is a hell of a cast. Angelica Houston, Gene Hackman, Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah, it's a great cast all around.
Yeah, some might not realize that the Wilson brothers have a big influence and take a part in the writing and sometimes the production of these movies.
Well, this one was co-written with Owen Wilson. Yeah,
so
him and Wes
they're
Anderson.
Frequent contributors to this. And what you said in the beginning, man, like run down the cast. To me, that's like the biggest achievement of this movie. Like that first 5 to 10 minutes is like a shining example of how to introduce characters. Like you immediately know who these people are, what their motivations are, and the relationships to each other. I immediately was like brought back to like why I like Wes Anderson in the first 10 minutes of Royal Tenenbaums.
So the framing device of this movie is that it's all like told as part of a chapter book, and you literally get the chapters up on screen. Alec Baldwin narrates the whole thing. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like the specifics of the movie before we talk about what we did and didn't like about it? Is there anything you don't like about this movie?
No. So yeah, like the tagline is it's the clan, a family's estranged patriarch, Royal Tenenbaum, the title character. He loses his home and he like tries to come back into the family, into his ex-wife's life and his children out of desperation.
Yeah. But there's also this story about how like these 3 children, 2 biological sons and Gwyneth Paltrow is the adopted daughter, like they all had this success when they were children, and they've all kind of fallen into some sort of miserable habit later on in life, or they're like somehow unfulfilled, or there's been some sort of misfortune. So this family's kind of like fallen apart at the seams, and it brings them all just back together again.
Yeah, and these characters are well off. They're sophisticated,
affluent.
Yeah, they're all dressed up. They don't seem like they've ever like really got their hands dirty in the working life. And I think that's a challenge and the interesting part about a lot of these movies is how relatable can they be to us? Just we're blue collar, middle class Americans, and So you want to go down the cast again? Just kind of talk about the characters we like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think the characters are very important to Wes Anderson movies. So up top, let's talk about Gene Hackman, Royal Tenenbaum. I thought it was great casting.
Did you know who was originally asked to play?
No.
I mean, the role was written with Gene Hackman in mind, but somebody else turned this role down before Gene Hackman got to it.
I don't know.
Gene Wilder.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine this movie with Gene Wilder? Because I want that version.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Gene Hackman fan. I don't see the appeal, to be frank. And I think Gene Wilder would fit this world and have so much more fun with it than Gene Hackman did. He felt like he was just there.
That's interesting because Gene Wilder, he really didn't have a lot of stuff. He didn't do a lot in the last half of his life.
He turned it down because of retiring from acting.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so they're trying to get him out of retirement. Yeah, that's a tough ask. I mean, I guess you do shoot your shot and ask him. That's interesting because I guess Wes Anderson probably was a huge fan of Wilder, maybe as much as he was of Bill Murray, who said yes to like every movie.
Yeah, I think he's been in all but maybe Bottle Rocket.
I think Gene Hackman really fits, and he is an outcast of the Tenenbaums, but I think he fits the story, and I think he fits the world. I really like his performance in this.
See, to me, I mean, okay, I'll just go ahead and say it. I didn't love this movie. I didn't hate it, but I don't see the appeal, and a lot of it lies in the character development, which there really is not much of. It's pretty much Richie and then Gwyneth Paltrow's character. What's her name? I can't remember her name.
Gwyneth Paltrow, Margot,
yeah. Like they're the most interesting parts of the movie for me.
Wow.
And them not even that much. Like Royal is this irredeemable asshole character at the beginning of the movie. He doesn't know his children's birthday. He says the wrong thing all the time. He's incredibly condescending to his own children. Like, and the whole point of the movie is that he is trying to weasel his way back in, and you don't know whether it's for virtuous reasons, like he actually wants to get to know his family again, or if it's just because he needs a place to crash. And that's where some of the comedy comes from. And then, towards the end of the movie, he has the inevitable change of heart where he realizes how much he actually loves his family and starts acting selfless. But I don't buy it. There's nothing that happens in the movie to me other than them kicking him out and him maybe realizing that he's been a shitty person the whole time. Like, there's no inciting incident for his actual character development. And I don't feel like the way the film positions our feelings of him at the end is earned. I really don't.
Interesting. Strong disagree. I'll come out and say that. So Royal Tenenbaum is like many a Wes Anderson main character, especially 3 of the 4 movies that we're going to talk about, and the villain in the 4th, which they don't really delve into. But no, I think his character is pretty well fleshed out. I'm shocked that you think this way. It's definitely a retribution tale. You know, like what you said was true, except I do buy it, and I thought they use a lot of interesting scenes. Like, it's not shoved down your throat. It's not like written out, like, you know, how he gets back into the family. And he definitely starts off with not the best of intentions, but I think, you know,
yeah, like, I mean, he's lying to them about being on his deathbed.
Yeah, that's his way, and I think the point is that, you know, these people are all flawed. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think he was a bad person. He just didn't know how to communicate, and he just wasn't for the family thing. And towards the end of his life, you know, yeah, he came into it for selfish reasons, but I think he truly, like, saw the beauty in, like, being a part of this family, being a part of this unit. Like, I think he's totally bought in by the end. And even towards the middle, like, when he starts trying to, you know, get back his sons, and then also, like, start a relationship with his grandsons. I thought, like, those scenes and, like, that whole process, I think, was just out of, like, wanting to connect to somebody. And
yeah, I
totally bought that.
I never got the like personal feel. I never felt like he was going through something that drastic. He's this kind of shifty con man kind of character.
Yeah, his luck ran out,
and he's supposed to grow a heart, and yeah. I didn't see the heart grow. I didn't see any sort of selfless acts, or I mean, maybe I need to watch it again, but I really didn't. I just didn't buy his character development. It so much of his character feels unearned, and given time that, frankly, I think the 3 children are more interesting characters and deserved more of the story.
More interesting. I don't know. See, I thought, and also your opinion on these characters, because they're very realistic, despite, like, their names and their little intricacies, and, like, you know, one has a pet, was like a hawk or whatever. And like,
Richie has a hawk.
Their lifestyle, but I mean, I think
falcon.
They're very real, well thought out characters, and I buy into it. I don't know. I kind of, maybe I relate to the dysfunctional movies more than your average viewer when it's like a dysfunctional family, especially one like this. But I thought all the characters are, like, pretty deep and very well thought out, more so than any of the other movies we'll talk about today, in my opinion. And I think Royal Tenenbaum's journey and, like, what he's fighting for, and, you know, the retribution he seeks is, like, is probably more, I don't know, I thought it was more heartfelt and more meaningful than, you know, some of the other ones, if not all of them. So I really like this movie. It's probably, I think it's Wes Anderson's best movie.
Really?
Yeah, at least. I have to review some. Yeah, I think, like,
I see this as him still kind of stumbling. One of the other things I really didn't like about this movie, and I know I'm going to be the dissenting opinion on this, I don't feel like the soundtrack was that good. Sure, it's a bunch of good songs. Like, he chose good songs to put in his movie, but none of it felt organic, and none of it felt like it lived in that world. Like, when you use a song as big as Hey Jude or Ruby Tuesday, like, all you're doing is drawing comparisons to every other time that person has heard that song.
Yeah, and I'm not as big of a Beatles fan, so, like, that wasn't as meaningful to me, but I thought it was well used, especially the Hey Jude version. Which was like a cover. It wasn't originally the Beatles.
No,
version.
it wasn't the original version, but I still feel like he's using, and I know that one of his big things is sampling, like, popular music from the 60s and 70s, but I feel like in this movie it's almost a crutch, where it's like scenes are going and transitioning too quickly from song to song, and it just sounds like he wanted a cool soundtrack, not that it felt like these songs fit. One of the things, and I'll hit on this more when we get to these movies specifically, I really like his movies more with an original score.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, it's a little rough around the edges, but that's what I like about it. I think he really kind of defines, like, what a Wes Anderson movie is in Tenenbaums. And the production value is not there, because this is, like, his second breakthrough, where, like, Rushmore got him to, you know, play in a bigger field with, you know, big name movie stars. I mean, you got to think Ben Stiller, Gwyneth Paltrow. You really don't get bigger than that.
Don't
in
get me wrong.
2001.
It's a competently made movie, and it's better than a lot of the stuff that people put out. But me having never seen it before and comparing it to the stuff that Wes Anderson has done in the last few years, like he's come so far as a filmmaker, and this is like Anderson template. This is like all the things that you think you know about a Wes Anderson movie, just with a really hollow script. Like I didn't buy the script or the characters, but it's got his style and his imprint all over it.
I can see what you're saying about like, okay, so the score is not as tight, like the scenes aren't as, well thought out and well crafted as like, like the movies past that. Because he's definitely gotten better at, production design. Like all the movies, after this look better and are definitely choreographed better. I'll give you that. But like, I think the script is one of his strongest, and I think it's like probably the most, or definitely I'd say like in the top third of his like most personal films. I think you see more of him, and he tends to like hide in his characters and in his worlds in his later film. So I think this is one of the more interesting ones. I think the script is fantastic. Like I said, there's so many interesting characters. We stopped at Royal Tenenbaum, but we'll go next to Ben Stiller. Chaz Tenenbaum, I like his story. Like he's, a little over the top. Like he's super protective because his wife died in a train accident or a car accident or a plane. Was it a plane? I think it was a plane.
Yeah.
Plane accident. He has 2 young boys. They all wear these matching Adidas jumpsuits, and they have a dog that they kind of cherish as like a token of the mother's life because the dog survived this plane crash. Mm-hmm. And he's like super overprotective. And he's one of the 3 kids we mentioned at the beginning. He's supremely fucked up. He's a successful businessman. He resents his father. He always felt like, his father preferred his older brother, I believe it was. Is Luke Wilson older?
I don't remember.
Luke Wilson's Richie Tenenbaum is like definitely the favorite of the father.
He's the tennis prodigy.
Yeah, he's the tennis prodigy.
The athlete of the family.
I thought Chaz Tenenbaum was really good. And back then, like a reserved Ben Stiller character was something to see. This is before he came back and did similar roles with Noah Baumbach. Like,
right.
This is where you see his acting chops, and like the Ben Stiller that I know, like early 90s Ben Stiller, like Permanent Midnight and the stuff he did with David O. Russell. Like this, I thought he was really good in this.
I feel like he isn't bad, but this is just gonna be me disagreeing with you the whole time. Like he's kind of one note. Like he's just mad at his dad the whole movie until he isn't. And there's
he has
nothing.
Issues with his brother too, and
I don't know. I feel like the progression of these characters of the movies, like I just in this one in particular, I didn't buy it.
Interesting. Okay. Next up is Margot Tenenbaum, one of your favorites. You said played by Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. I thought Margot and Richie were the stronger characters.
So it was kind of weird. She's kind of dressed up as a schoolgirl. She got like a pixie haircut, and she wears like tomboy clothes. I thought that was weird. She's married to Bill Murray's character, who's like an author or something. He's like an esteemed author, Rayleigh St. Clair.
Yeah,
I don't know what his job was. I forgot, but he's definitely an intellectual. And he seems like a not personable, a little too like prim and proper for a Tenenbaum. Yeah. And then she's had a lifelong I wouldn't even call it like love affair, whatever it is. There's always been chemistry between her and Luke Wilson's character, Richie Tenenbaum.
Yeah, and even though they're not related by blood, there's it's something taboo because they are technically siblings in the eyes of the law. Yeah,
and their family is full of opinions and judgments, and the Tenenbaums are celebrities in a way. Like they're a dying, like prestigious family. They're kind of like the last of their kind.
Yeah.
And I like Gwyneth. I thought she fit in really well. I thought her character
it was refreshing
was interesting.
Seeing her as this character after watching all these fucking Iron Man and Avengers movies and seeing her as Pepper Potts, where she is kind of, she's just playing the same character in every one of those movies, literally.
Indie darling Gwyneth Paltrow back in the early to mid 90s to like up until then, she did a lot of like good acting, and there's a reason why she became famous.
Oh, definitely one of my favorite roles I've ever seen her in. I was more interested in her than the majority of this movie, but she was one of the characters whose traits I felt like tied into how they actually acted. Like the fact that she didn't tell anyone in her family or anyone in her life that she was a smoker since the age of 12, and that the fact that she hid that from everyone for all those years, the fact that she ran away, found her family, and came back 6 months later without a finger and didn't tell anyone why. Like, that secrecy really played into her insecurities, and that was all a result of her being the adopted daughter of Royal, who never let her forget that she was the adopted daughter. That all made sense. Like, her quirks fit her character, as opposed to Chaz, who was just kind of like neurotic, or Royal, who's just an asshole. Yeah,
I think there's more depth to them than you're giving credit. But I mean, if you just didn't buy the characters, I don't know if I can sell them to you in this podcast. I'd say Richie is the most interesting of the siblings for sure. Like you said, he was a failed tennis star, had like a meltdown. He's like hopelessly in love with his adopted sister, and I think he's great. His like whole mental breakdown scene, like, I thought that was great. If you didn't buy into that scene, I could see why this movie didn't work for you. The shaving scene, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was a little tough to watch, but it wasn't a low point of the movie for me.
I thought that was a major achievement because, like, it's such a huge tonal shift, and it works. Like, the music, the mood, everything changes in that movie for a brief moment, and I bought into it. I thought it really added depth to the whole situation. I think Luke Wilson's never been better in this, and I think watching these movies,
strong performance by him for
Luke
sure.
Luke Wilson's a better acting Wilson brother, I feel like.
Yeah, he's more versatile. Owen Wilson's really good at being Owen Wilson, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, if I was the Wilson's mom, I would say, Owen, you're really great at being Owen. Keep being Owen.
Yeah, let's bring up Owen Wilson. Eli Cash, he's like, he was best friend of Richie. Also kind of like a rival, more imposed by Eli because he always wanted to be a Tenenbaum. There's like that whole storyline where Angelica Houston's character, Ethelyn, the matriarch of the Tenenbaum.
Also, I think one of the stronger performances in the movie.
Yeah. Angelica Houston, like, she does so much with so little time in all these movies. She's a Wes Anderson staple.
Yeah.
And she's got that matriarch thing down, that strong, stern woman character. And, Eli Cash kind of looks up to her as the mom he never had. And Owen Wilson's just like really a bro that's trying to pose as an intellectual. He writes these books that no one really seems to care about. He does a lot of drugs. He's, kind of aimless, purposeless, just trying to fit in.
Yeah, this is another character I could have done without. As much as I like Owen Wilson, I don't feel like the movie ever realized how it wanted to feel about this character, whether he's the villain or whether he's just another struggling, Tenenbaum adjacent character trying to figure out who they actually are.
Yeah, there's gray areas with all these people, though.
Yeah.
And he's important because, like, he helps motivate Richie to, like, get his shit together, and just kind of go for it.
See,
like,
I don't.
Not there. Like, I think just he pushes the envelope with that whole Richie Margot situation by having an affair with Margot. Like, without him, and he's also part of that's a hysterical like side story where Margot's husband, played by Bill Murray, and her brother, adopted brother, played by Luke Wilson, are both trying to figure out who she's having an affair with, and for opposite reasons. Like, he's like pseudo helping out Bill Murray's character, but really he's in love with her. They're in love with the same woman. I thought that was a really cool storyline.
The love triangle, like not even love triangle, love like rectangle.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody loves Margot. She is like the only romantic interest in the whole movie. Like, there's Angelica Houston, I guess, also has a love triangle. So that's wrong.
Yeah,
but
she has everything going on.
Enter Danny Glover, who I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, he's fine in this movie. I don't feel like he's the odd man out because he's the one who actually like knows who he is and knows what he wants. And
he's definitely got his shit together.
Yeah, he's not pussyfooting around in this movie.
Well, I would also say Ethelyn,
yes,
mom.
Yeah, but even her, like she kind of waffles on Royal and how she feels about him.
Yeah, that's love, man. Yeah, like she knows he's like a terrible person, I guess. So like, not there was no future in him, and
I'm just saying Danny Glover's character is probably the most confident character in the whole movie.
Yeah, confident enough to walk into a hole in the middle of a construction site. It's another fantastic scene. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I love this story. I love redemption stories. And I'm all in on Royal Tenenbaum. I think he's one of the better Wes Anderson characters. Flawed for sure, but like the way he schemes and scratches and crawls his way back into the family, and the fact that you don't know his intentions, like you said, I like that. Like, it wasn't a cut by, or paint by numbers fucking dysfunctional family movie. Like, this is better than that. I thought it was one of the best written movies of the whole bunch of these Wes Anderson movies. And I thought it was definitely an accomplishment to put all these people in a movie together. And he hasn't really gone... He has ensemble casts, but not like this. Not in any other movie are all these characters like that critical to the story.
Yeah, man, I gotta disagree with you on this. I think this is building blocks, Wes Anderson. This is an impressive outing for the time that he put it out, but I think in the grand scheme of things, he has come so much further and done such better things since then. And it's because he's crafted smarter characters and better plots and more interesting scenarios for characters to go through. He filled, as great as the cast of Royal Tenenbaums is, he filled this cast with characters that mostly went nowhere except for Margot and Richie, in my eyes, at least.
Yeah, I think they all grew. I don't think it was about A to B type, their journey wasn't like A to B, but it was just, they all, the insertion of Royal into the family again, I think they all grew, obviously Richie and Margot, like their relationship, Ethelyn, like finally moving on and getting together with Danny Glover's Henry, like I thought that was great. Chaz, like his growth, like he finally starts to live life. I also love the touch at the end during the funeral where they're all wearing the black Adidas jumpsuits in mourning. I thought that was great. I think
that's another thing I did actually like about this movie is the anachronism of it all, where it's not in any particular area or time of New York City. It's just like everyone's wardrobe is from different decades and the cars are from different decades.
That could be a beat up cab from any decade. It looks like it originated in like the 50s.
It's just a nebulous New York City adjacent fantasy world, and that's a staple. That's where Wes Anderson really shines, is like creating these separate universes that take place in vaguely familiar surroundings.
So I thought of an odd analogy to this movie, and it might work for you because you like Weezer. So if this was a Weezer album, I feel like this is the Pinkerton of the collection, because it's like the open wounds. I think this movie is like the last big glimpse into Wes Anderson as the person. Like I think it has a very personal touch. Also, same with Rushmore and Bottle Rocket, the two movies preceding this. And I like that. That's what I look forward to, is like the characters, the writing, the depth of them, like the journey. I thought like that this was just a more fleshed out character study, and I thought the characters did more in this than most of his movies. So for me, like just kind of to wrap it up, it's like top 3 for me for sure. It might be my favorite. I have to like really watch them all and see. I think you could argue it's his best movie in my eyes.
This is for me. And it's rare anymore that we disagree, I think, this strongly, but it's like bottom of the rankings for me. And I'll have a more definitive idea of what that ranking is after we watch all of these, because I also still haven't seen Darjeeling Limited.
So it's bottom half.
It is bottom half of Wes Anderson for me, for sure. And it's not even something that I wouldn't recommend. I don't think it was a bad movie. I think if you like Wes Anderson, odds are you've already seen this movie. I'm definitely the odd man out on this, but he's done much better things since then. Pretty much everything he's done since then has been better, having not seen Darjeeling Limited, which I do feel like is the redheaded stepchild of the Wes Anderson crew.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, again, that's available on HBO. You can rent it places, but if you have HBO or HBO Go, you can see it for free, and let us know if you agree with me or if you're like Matt and you're wrong. Up next, now, so it's a complicated conversation with me. Like, so I think Royal Tenenbaums is probably the best Wes Anderson. This one might be my favorite.
Okay.
Because I can separate those things.
Here's the thing. Everything that I thought was wrong, and this Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is our next movie. This is 2004. This is his follow-up to Royal Tenenbaums. There's nothing in between these two. I think everything that I disliked about Royal Tenenbaums was like course-corrected for Steve Zissou. I fucking loved it. And I had seen this movie like halfway through before and didn't care for it. When I was a teenager, I tried to watch this.
Man, teenage Matt is such a punk.
So I just didn't know. I think I went into it expecting like a goofy Bill Murray movie and didn't know what I wanted.
I mean, it's kind of what it is, though.
So yeah, first time I tried watching this movie back in the day, I turned it off. But I'm amazed that I was able to do that, because this time through it was such a joy, and it was nice watching it immediately after Royal Tenenbaums, because I was like, oh man, everything I hated about the character of Royal Tenenbaum is fixed with the character of Steve Zissou, even though they go through very similar kind of redemptive character arcs.
Very similar, I think.
I believed it more. Maybe it's because I like Bill Murray more than Gene Hackman.
I do. I mean, Bill Murray's my favorite actor. But yeah, man, like, let's get real quick what this is about.
Sure.
It's a revenge and redemption movie. There's a plan to exact revenge on a mythical shark that killed his partner, oceanographer Steve Zissou, which is like, he's loosely based off of
Jacques Cousteau.
It rallies a crew that includes his estranged wife, a journalist played by Cate Blanchett, and a man who may or may not be his son, played by Owen Wilson. Definitely, like, this is peak. This is where, like, I think Wes Anderson, like, captures, like, the style, the visual effects, the production quality. Like, the dude fills a room up. Like, everything is there for a reason.
Yes.
And the soundtrack is great. It's done mainly by, what is his name? Sean... I'm going to say it wrong, but a gentleman
Sue George.
Sue George, like, yeah, he
Portuguese or Brazilian. I think he might be Brazilian.
Yeah,
either way,
look it up. You can Google it if you care. He does I think almost exclusively David Bowie covers throughout the whole movie. It's a great soundtrack,
and there's a couple other popular songs in here too, but nothing on the nothing compared to Royal Tenenbaums. This has a more natural, like, musical feel to it. It all feels a little more organic.
Yeah, it's a tall tale. It's basically like a heroic story of this, like, guy who's larger than life, but is in a later stage. He's a has-been for sure. His friend was killed by this fucking, they call it a jaguar shark.
Yeah.
And I'll agree with you. I like Steve Zissou more than Royal Tenenbaum. I don't know. I mean, he's not as complicated. He's, like Royal, is kind of looking back in his life in the second half of it, has a lot of regrets. Tries to find meaning in life in other people, in an estranged son, maybe not, doesn't really matter. He's also trying to, win the praise and attention of this reporter played by Cate Blanchett, who, I love, I adore. And also, like, try to one up his main rival, played by Jeff Goldblum.
Oh yeah, fantastic in this movie. Yeah,
Alistair Hennessy, who is like everything bad about Steve Zissou is good about this Jeff Goldblum character. He's richer, he's more successful, he's more sophisticated. He's his sexuality comes into question many times in this movie, and even Steve's wife, like, keeps a photo of him. Like, it's interesting. The rivalry, I thought, was like one of the best parts of this movie. Like, Goldblum fits in perfectly. I'm pretty sure
they stage Steve's crew stages a robbery on one of Jeff Goldblum's, like, offshore, I guess, like, science depots.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. That was a fun scene. And then this movie in general, like, even though it's got Wes Anderson's, like, slow moving, like, dry, deadpan kind of humor, it's more fun than Royal Tenenbaums.
It's I'll give you that. Definitely more fun movie, more centered. I'd say. Bill Murray's fantastic. He fits right in. This is one of my favorite Bill Murray roles, and that's saying something, because I love the guy.
It's perfect, and it was literally made for him. Wes Anderson said that nobody else could play this role, and I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah, I would say this film, maybe almost as much as was it Lost in Translation, responsible for the renaissance of Bill Murray.
Yeah,
and some great films, and we really haven't seen any in a while, unfortunately, that he's done like this. But I would say that I don't think this is as deep in interesting characters. I think the supporting cast is weaker in this movie. I love Bill Murray. I think he's strong. He's one of the best characters Wes Anderson's ever come up with. I thought Jeff Goldblum is fantastic. He has some great scenes, like the "Oh, you've come to rescue me" scene where he gets shot.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the comedic timing is perfect in that. I also really enjoy William Dafoe's Klaus character and his rivalry with Owen Wilson, when Owen Wilson just kind of shows up out of nowhere and is kind of going after that first mate spot that Klaus was supposed to inherit, basically, after the death of Steve's best friend and lifetime companion. And
he's like uber loyal. He's like loyal to a fault.
And he is like, Klaus is ridiculous. Like, definitely toes the line of being over the top, but is a fantastic character. Like one of the most fun Dafoe characters ever. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
William Dafoe, I don't think ever had more fun in a movie than he has in this.
I really like Owen Wilson as Ned.
Ned Plimpton.
As Steve's like maybe kind of sort of son. He's a little more sad sack than we're used to, but I think it works, man. I like downplayed Owen Wilson. I think he fits the vibe of this movie pretty well, and you get to see him kind of like grow to admire Stevesy. Yeah, Stevesy. And
Papa
man,
Steve.
it's so heartbreaking. Some of those scenes where he like wants to treat him like a dad, and Steve just completely turns away from it.
Yeah, I'm not in. I don't love the character as much as you. I thought he was acceptable. I don't think he brings that much to the role extra. Like he does the role fine. I don't know. I don't think he has like that much depth to him. Like.
I just think it's a more interesting character than he usually gets.
For sure.
He might not
by default because he's not crashing weddings or like being drill bit Taylor, whatever the fuck he usually does. Like
he doesn't own the role the same way Bill Murray owns Steve Zissou, but I mean, no one else in this movie really can.
Yeah.
I think Ned Plimpton is an interestingly written character, probably more so than the entirety of everyone in Royal Tenenbaums. Okay. And it's at this point it's a comparison game because I think everything that I disliked with that was fixed in this.
They're fair films to compare because they are very similar. Like you said, you have like this redemption story for a person who's probably Steve Zissou and Royal Tenenbaum are probably close in age. Like they're both winding down. They have regrets. I just feel like there wasn't much asked of the supporting cast, and that's why it's different in that way. I agree the production quality is better. I just think it's a more simple story. You do see some of the stop motion stuff. I thought there was like some beautiful scenes, some great shots, some of the best shots of Wes Anderson's career, like some of the best cinematography you'll find.
I think this movie also proves that Wes Anderson is great at like epic adventures. He's like on the sly good at epic adventures, because you wouldn't think of him as somebody that would do an adventure movie, but he's really good. I mean, at tracking like and making me believe that these characters are like on this path, forging this destiny, encountering these weird creatures. Like I'm in on the adventure, as opposed to something like even Rushmore, which I love, which is really just more of a character piece and kind of a personal, very small kind of story. This is much bigger. Something like this or Grand Budapest Hotel, which I would probably say is still my favorite. It's just like he hits the grandiose scope pretty well.
So I definitely agree that great adventure movies, I wouldn't call them epic, because then that makes me think of like Lord of the Rings or something like that. Like the set pieces are small, there's not a lot of action, but they're on a mission.
They're like DIY adventure movies.
They're quirky, they're interesting.
I love the scenes in there's two scenes in Life Aquatic that I really liked, when Steve's telling you about his boat and he's talking directly to the camera. He's like, let me tell you about my boat, and he goes through it all, and then later on you get that really great scene after he walks in on Ned and Cate Blanchett's character. Like, I think it's right after he walks in on them like together, basically, or he finds out that they've been sleeping around behind his back. And there's he's basically like going from room to room on the ship, and you see like almost like it's a cutout of the side of the ship. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It's so interestingly shot.
Very fluid, poetic.
I love stuff like that, because you don't see other people doing that, and scenes like that remind me that Wes Anderson is like pretty much his own fucking genre. Like, he's not, you can't pigeonhole him into any one given, slot. He's Wes Anderson. He's going to do Wes Anderson shit.
Yeah, and this is a team up. He co-wrote this one with Noah Baumbach, who's someone I'm a big fan of, and again is a like frequent Wes Anderson contributor. The producers, I think I was trying to look at if there's any difference in this. There's some animation in this as well, so I think this is a pretty good bridge to the next two films we're going to talk about.
Yeah, the Jaguar Shark is actually the biggest stop motion puppet ever made.
Interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that. But I mean, I'm splitting hairs with these two. These, like, Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic are two of my favorite movies. It's kind of what you're in the mood for. I think they both are very successful in what they're trying to do. It's just I gravitate towards like character development and just like a well-written script. And I think like Royal Tenenbaums is just more complicated, and that's what I like about it. Life Aquatic is just a great comfort movie for me. Loaded, like a great performance by Bill Murray. Just like they created this awesome like hero character, flawed hero out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And everything around it's really beautiful and cool. But yeah, I thought the supporting cast was just kind of, they weren't asked to do much, and everything, the camera and the director, I think, just was in love with Bill Murray with good reason. But like you look, Kate Blanchett, she wasn't really asked to do much. Have an accent, be this like cog in the piece, a hurdle, for Bill Murray's character, Owen Wilson's character to get over. I think she could have been used a lot more.
Yeah.
And same with Defoe. Even though Defoe is fun and interesting, he's just, these people are just kind of props around Steve Zissou. And that could be said of, that's kind of the viewpoint of the character, where he never really fully cared about people until towards the end of the movie. That being said, man, I really like it. I thought the ending's great. Like the music's awesome. It definitely, both these movies, Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic, kind of like choked me up in the end. Like they do strike a chord with me. And these are the movies that got me to like fall in love with Wes Anderson stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, you watched this on DVD or Blu-ray, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
because you own it.
Criterion Collection.
Of course you do.
Got that 2-disc.
Now, I watched this on Netflix, but as of this recording, it is no longer on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I got there just in time to watch it. I would recommend it, though, to buy.
Yeah,
I would say rent it on Amazon if you absolutely want to watch it. It's worth the $5.
I agree. It's definitely worth money.
It.
And yeah, I don't know if it's on Blu-ray. I have the DVD. It looks great.
I'm sure it is.
But yeah, like it's a great movie. I can't recommend it enough. It's, again, for me, it's splitting hairs. You have these movies like separated by a lot. It seems like.
Yeah, no, I think Life Aquatic is a marked improvement over Royal Tenenbaums. He focuses a little bit more in it. He shows a little bit more of his stylistic flair, and it's a good balance of style and substance, where I feel like Tenenbaums is just all style over substance for me.
Yeah, Tenenbaums is just more personal. I mean, definitely it's a big jump because it's 3 years. These films are back to back in his filmography, and yeah, like the quality of this film visually is like without a question better than Royal Tenenbaums, but I think they're different, and I think Tenenbaums is strong in some areas where Life Aquatic suffers, and vice versa. But both like awesome movies, like all-time favorite movies for me.
Cool. So one of the things that we definitely wanted to watch since Isle of Dogs is Wes Anderson's second stop-motion animated film. We wanted to watch his first one, Fantastic Mr. Fox. This is probably the only one of his that you could say is a family movie.
Family-ish, yeah.
It definitely was marketed that way at the time.
Well, yeah, as family as Roald Dahl stuff is. I mean,
true.
He definitely has a twist on what is very familiar, like fairy tale characters and worlds and plot devices, and he puts his like dark humor twist on it.
Yeah, yeah. So this one, I watched it on Blu-ray. I borrowed it from a friend. Do you own this one?
Yeah, I have the digital copy because I did at one point own the Blu-ray.
It is streaming on Cinemax. If you have I think their app is called Max Go. You can watch it on there. But this is based on a story, like Frank said, by Roald Dahl, who did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, the BFG, a lot of classics. And this is another screenplay that was co-written with Noah Baumbach. This is about an urbane fox played by George Clooney who cannot resist returning to his farm-raiding ways and then must help his community survive the farmers' retaliation. Great voice cast on this. Definitely filled with people that don't typically do voice acting, which I think
Meryl Streep being like probably the most glaring example of that.
Yeah. I forgot that she was in this, and I've seen this before, but I forgot how just great the cast is. And there's also a lot of relative unknowns in this. Like one of the bigger characters, Mr. Fox's nephew, what's his name?
Kylie. Christopherson.
Christopherson. I think he's played by Wes Anderson's brother.
Yeah, Eric Chase Anderson. Yeah. Thought it was a really good job. Yeah, there's definitely nepotism in Wes Anderson.
He plays favorites. Yeah,
his brother will co-write. He does all the cool posters for the movies. Like if you see any of the artwork associated, if it's anything that's hand drawn, it's most likely his brother that's done it. I mean, it's an interesting ensemble cast. A lot of familiar faces. Clooney and Streep being the main additions. Obviously at this point they're huge stars. This is 2009.
But this is also the only time
been a star.
Yeah, and this is also the only time that they've worked with Wes Anderson.
Yeah,
So it's
one and
interesting to
done.
me that they did
Yeah.
it in a animated format, not in an actual movie.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. It's if you want to get those guys, it's probably easier to get them to just voice act for a month or so instead of
Yeah.
actually showing up for like half a year. So strengths of this movie, I think it's visually like appealing. It was definitely ahead of its time. Nothing looked like this at the time, and I think it's a very clever movie.
Yeah.
I think the music fits.
Yeah, another one, and this was one of the first ones where he teamed up with the guy who's done a lot of his scores since then. The guy who did the score elements of this movie, Alexandre Desplat. I don't.
That's okay.
Normally, you're the one that's bad. but-
Alexandre, yeah, I didn't try that.
Alexandra. Yeah, he's the guy that also did the music for like Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest Hotel, Isle of Dogs, which we're
Award
still
winning
getting
too.
just yeah.
He's been
And,
on Argo, The Queen, The King's Speech. Like,
and
yeah.
his shit just fits a Wes Anderson movie so well. Like it's a good collaboration between those two. I'm interested in trying out some of his other scores and listening to him because I'm a sucker for a good soundtrack.
Good luck, bro, because he has 176 credits. So
I'll go through some of the more famous ones.
check out the Valerian and City of a Thousand Planets score. That's good.
But man, yeah, I think the music in this is so much better. There's good use of diegetic music in this as well. There's some songs that are actually in the movie, so they fit. They feel more organic. That's one of the things that I find myself liking as these Wes Anderson movies get a little more progressive and mature. Like he matures as a filmmaker, and I think his use of music in these is a good thing to look at.
Yeah, I think so. The best I can say about this movie is that, like, if you're a parent, like, you're not going to find like that much depth outside of a great Pixar movie in an animated movie that you and your child can enjoy. But I think it kind of stops at clever for me. It's clever, it's fun. I think it's like his most shallow movie by far.
Really?
Like, yeah, like
Maybe it's because it's an
Mr. Fox-
adaptation too.
yeah. I mean, there's some restraints to that, and he's probably very loyal to the adaptation because it definitely feels like a children's book come to life, like the way everything.
So the first,
into
like,
place.
I've never read the original, but I did read up on this a little bit today because I watched this actually this morning before we recorded. So the first 2/3 of this movie are almost verbatim the book. Obviously, Wes Anderson has his flair on there, where Mr. Fox is just like any of the, almost irredeemable asshole characters that he tends to put in his movies
Like,
because he
this
makes
is
a lot
another
of
redemptive story of a patriarch,
another one.
who really has lived a selfish life. He's having like a midlife crisis. Really, in Fox years, it's like he's towards the end of his life.
Yeah, he said something early on about how he's 7, his father died at 7.5.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it makes sense. And again, another character that for me, his motivations made a little bit more sense than Royal Tenenbaum.
Maybe it's because they're more simple. I mean, they're easier to understand, but I just don't care. I mean, he wants materialistic lifestyle. He wants a bigger house and a better tree, and he ignores his wife, played by Meryl Streep, who's like the voice of reason throughout.
Of course.
He just is selfish.
Oh, it's
like,
simplistic for
yeah.
sure, but I think visually is where this movie really shines. The puppets look different than any other stop motion thing. I'm pretty sure I read this right that it's real animal hair on those animals.
A lot of people think this movie looks creepy. I've heard that before.
I can see why you would think it looks creepy. It's grown on me. I think definitely having rewatched it, where it's just got a really interesting style. I think the human character puppets are done really interestingly, and there's a real sense of the stakes actually being high in this. Like the danger feels real in this movie, and it kind of again proves my point that Wes Anderson's good at creating these adventure movies where even though the heroes are going to win and everything will be okay, and I mean, again, it's Wes Anderson, so even if I had seen this for the first time, you don't really know. Anyone can die. He definitely doesn't like dogs. He killed a dog in Royal Tenenbaums. He had a one-legged dog have Jeff Goldblum smack the shit out of it, and Steve Zissou. So you got to worry about those kind of characters. But I felt like the danger was real, the tension was high, the characters' motivations made sense. You're right that parents can do a lot worse, if they're trying to find like something to actually watch with their kids. It's pretty much this or Pixar or the Leica stuff like Coraline and Kubo.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a fun, well-crafted movie. I've seen it like 4 or 5 times now. It's just, I don't need to see this movie ever again. There's just not much to pull from it outside of like, it's fun. It looks cool. Like, again, this is like, to me, it's Wes Anderson just kind of like hiding. Like, he's showing less of himself. Like, it's an adaptation, so of course.
Yeah.
But I just don't think there's much rewatchability to this movie.
I think if you're thinking about it in Wes Anderson terms, yes, it's for me, it's like middle of the road for him, because it's him just proving that he's really good at what he does, but he's not maybe pouring his heart and soul into it like he does with other things. But I was watching on the Blu-ray that I have from my friend a little thing about the adaptation process of it, and Roald Dahl's widow was like over the moon about this movie. So to me, if you're thinking about it as a Wes Anderson movie, sure, it's like middle of the road for him. Not terrible, not the greatest thing he's ever done either. But if we're talking about like unnecessary and unwanted adaptations of children's literature, which we get all the fucking time, Peter Rabbit and Paddington. Well, Paddington actually I haven't seen, but people seem to like. This is probably, I haven't seen BFG, but this is probably a better Roald Dahl adaptation than the BFG, and that was fucking Steven Spielberg, man. Yeah,
I mean, it's a really good children's animation. It's just like an okay movie. To me, it's at this point in what we've reviewed, it's the bottom Wes Anderson movie for me. It's like just lacks the depth or the personal touch, and I just don't really care about the characters. Like, it's fun, it's clever. That's about it. I'm glad it's only like 90 minutes. It doesn't need to be any more than that.
It is short. It is really short, yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm just not super into it. I can go without seeing this one again. Like, I don't think it's great. I don't think it's like even close to the previous two movies we talked about. It's just not on the level.
Yeah, see, this was more up my alley. We're almost like on a fulcrum, and we're going opposite directions. We're kind of in the same spot on Steve Zissou, and how I feel about Fantastic Fox, how you feel about Fantastic Fox, how I felt about Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah, I mean, I value things that this movie lacks are more important to me than just style and like, everything coming together, mechanically. Which, yeah, this movie's well crafted, but there's not much there, man. Like, it's
all right.
It's not complicated.
Would you recommend it to people that haven't seen it?
Yeah, I mean, sure, check it out.
What if you don't have kids?
I didn't have kids when I watched it, and I liked it. But
okay.
I mean, it's good. It's not great. I don't think, if we're comparing these as a movie, it's okay movie. As a Wes Anderson movie, to me, it's subpar. As a kid's movie, you can do a lot worse. It's good.
Okay. So now getting to the meat of this episode, what everyone that downloaded it is really waiting for.
Probably.
Our Isle of Dogs review.
Yeah.
This is in theaters now. Limited theaters, but it's in theaters now. And we've both seen it. It took a minute. I don't know about you. My screening was really crowded. I'm glad that we got there early because it was a busy screening. Well,
you saw it on Saturday too, right?
Yeah, it was Saturday night at like 9:20.
Yeah, it's prime time, man. Yeah, I saw it Sunday matinee, which was like 1:30 at this theater. So it was pretty crowded though. Excuse me. It was in the biggest auditorium, like in said theaters, in Theater 1. So it was a nice crowd. That there was a mix of children and elderly people and hipsters like me, so it was a pretty good audience. They responded really well to it. Real quick, like, what's this movie about? It's set in Japan. Isle of Dogs follows this boy's odyssey in search of his lost dog on Trash Island, which the story set up where this character who's like they call him mayor, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like a dystopian near future where, the mayor of this town, I guess.
Mayor Takayami.
Yeah.
Like, he's a cat-loving, dog-hating dictator.
Yeah.
And he banishes every dog off to this island. And there's this dog flu that he may or may not have fabricated that is, like, causes fear.
But that's the excuse to ship all the dogs
fear and
away.
rejection. I mean, the majority of people in this world, like, go along with it. Like, they say, like, no one visits the dogs and stuff like that. And there's, like, this boy who wants to find his dog, this small group of freedom fighters, which includes a foreign exchange student. So it's interesting. It definitely has more going on for it than Fantastic Mr. Fox. But, like, real quick for people that don't want the spoiler, I'm going to give your quick thoughts, like, yes, no, like how much you liked it.
I would absolutely recommend this movie. I really enjoyed it. It has its issues, but it's definitely worth seeing in theaters. Even if you have to go out of your way to see it, If you like Wes Anderson at all, don't let it miss you.
Or if you just love dogs.
Yeah, or you just really love dogs.
It's a great dog movie.
This isn't. Well, I was going to say this isn't a spoiler, but it absolutely is. We'll get into it in a second.
Yeah.
Normally, I say that regardless of what the movie is, if a dog dies in a movie, everyone should be given a heads up beforehand. But a lot of the tension in this movie comes from dogs being the main characters being put in predicaments where they could possibly die. And I don't want to say one way or another whether or not dogs die in this movie.
You just got to deal with the possibility that dogs could die.
Yeah, just know that Wes Anderson has not been kind to dogs in his previous movies. And
Yeah, you're right.
recognize that he could potentially do something that you don't
A
like.
dog does die in Tenenbaums, but he's not a huge character.
No. But just generally, he doesn't.
Yeah, a dog's missing a limb in Life Aquatic, but he survives.
Yeah, but he also lets Jeff Goldblum smack the fuck out of him with a newspaper.
Yeah, it's different. That's more. They don't show that. If you pay attention to that scene, you don't ever see him hit the dog.
No, you just see him like lean over. It's off screen.
So
Either way.
no real dogs will harm. Maybe some stop motion ones are. Yeah, I highly recommend this too. I really liked it. I know there's a lot of think pieces going around about it right now, and it's being criticized in more ways than just the quality of the story and stuff. And we'll get into that with our spoiler review, I assume. But yeah, I really like it, man. I enjoyed it even more than I expected, especially coming off of Fantastic Mr. Fox. Yeah, this is one of the better ones.
Cool. So if you still haven't seen it, pause now. Just stop listening to this episode. Go see it, and then come back. And now the spoilers can start.
Cool.
All right. So
yeah.
So this movie did not go the way I expected it to go. But
Where's the big deceit in the beginning?
yeah, they make you think that it's going to be this big quest, and they
Whether they make you, the trailers make you think it's a big quest, and then there's a part in the movie where you're like, oh, I guess that's wrapped up and over. How's the little pilot going to handle this one?
yeah, the dog, they think that the dog he came there to see is already dead.
But spoiler, it was a mistaken identity. I don't know, man. I really like this movie. I thought the story was interesting. The story of man best friend has been overused. Like it's a cheap ploy, but I think it's definitely fleshed out here.
Oh yeah, people love like any sort of a boy and his dog movie,
Oh, yeah,
and this is a boy and his like 400 dogs.
It was a common thing when I worked at Blockbuster where you would see I know Richard Gere did a movie. Other people actors who have been out of the spotlight but have some brand name recognition would do a dog and kid movie, and
Yeah.
it would sometimes not even make it to theaters, but it'd be extremely popular in the video store.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And people are suckers for shit like this, but this one has more style, and it's a futuristic story. Takes place in Japan. Wes Anderson's a huge fan of Japanese culture and of Akira Kurosawa, and you can see the influence there.
Yeah, you can see a lot of Kurosawa in this. You can see a lot of Miyazaki in this. He was saying that I read an interview with Wes Anderson where he was saying that a lot of the silent moments in his movie, and there are a few in this, and this is another one with the score by that guy Alexandre Desplat. Probably murdering that, whatever.
It's okay.
But the music's really, really strong in this movie. It's very forceful score when it wants to be, which makes the moments of quiet kind of like a deafening quiet almost. He definitely got that from Miyazaki. But then the music itself and some of the more tension-filled scenes, you can absolutely see a Kurosawa influence in there.
Yeah, Mayor Kobayashi, by the way. I screwed that up.
Kobayashi, yeah.
I started to read the think piece articles about this and about Wes Anderson's portrayal of Japanese culture.
People are saying that it's appropriation because it's a disrespectful view of the culture, but I don't get it.
As a white guy, I didn't see it either, man. One of the villains, the main villain is Japanese, but so is the hero. There's a little bit of the white helper with Greta Gerwig's character, Tracy Walker, the foreign exchange student.
Yeah, part of me just thinks that he wanted a role for Greta Gerwig, and that was where he landed. But that's the only thing that I can see. Yeah, the white savior argument I could see being there a little bit, but I don't think anything was done with any sort of disrespect or willful ignorance.
Yeah, I think a lot of times in conversations like this, intent is not even like looked at, and you could say, okay, maybe he misfired or he's not the one to do this, but Wes Anderson has basically done movies about white people from New York, or like upper class white people, his entire career.
Yeah.
Or an animated movie about foxes. So he's getting chastised for going out of his comfort zone, which I don't know. Like, again, if you guys, someone let me know, and I've started the articles. I'm going to read them now after seeing the movie because I want to kind of go in as fresh eyed as I could. But I thought it added an interesting setting to it. I thought I liked all the Japanese cultural stuff that was added to it.
It felt like
a unique voice.
It felt like homage, not appropriation. It didn't feel like it was misusing any of those elements. You could just tell that whoever made the film, whether he be white, black, Asian, whatever, had a love for that culture and wanted to adapt that. And I think he did it in a really interesting way. Not to mention, the film itself is fucking beautiful. It's a gorgeous stop motion movie. It is the longest stop motion film ever made as well, but it's still not even that long.
1 hour 40 minutes. So it's 10 minutes longer than Fantastic Mr. Fox, which makes it the new record holder.
Yeah. Well, no, Coraline. This beats Coraline by 2 minutes. But yeah, it was a fucking gorgeous movie. Great voice cast. I like the decision to not subtitle every bit of Japanese language.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was good. And they set up pretty early on too. They say like, oh, all barks are translated into English, which is how all the dogs can talk.
Yeah, they explain the language, the translation in the beginning, and people like chuckled at that. Like they thought it was like cool, like the way the film was introduced.
The only thing though, you have to really I know it's an animated movie about talking dogs, but you have to go a little bit out of the extreme to justify some stuff, like the fact that every dog in this movie apparently can whistle without lips. That was the thing that was like that. It kind of stood out to me. It was such a whimsical movie that I was like, okay, it's just a fantasy world where dogs can whistle, but like that's such a weird. That was something in Fantastic Mr. Fox too. Like at the end, they go to the grocery store, they're all sipping juice boxes, and I'm like, how the fuck are these guys sipping juice boxes? They don't have lips. They're animals. That's not how animals work.
Suspend your disbelief.
Yeah,
I had no issue with the whistling.
It didn't bother me to the point. I'm just saying, like, if you that's the kind of movie that you're watching, you're gonna have to allow some things to not make sense.
Yeah, I enjoyed the dog culture. I thought Bryan Cranston's chief character as a dog, good. Like his story arc was fantastic. Like it was hidden. Like again, he's a very similar like Wes Anderson patriarchal character. Like his story is not like that of redemption, but kind of like finding himself, trusting and loving other people was something he struggled with.
I think it's interesting that all of the dog characters, which you also have Rex voiced by Edward Norton, Boss, Bill Murray, King, Bob Balaban, and Duke, Jeff Goldblum.
If you don't know who Bob Balaban is, he's the guy from Princess Bride that says inconceivable.
No, he's not, is he? No, he's not. No.
Who is he?
You're thinking
yeah, you're right. I'm thinking. No, he plays he's a character actor. He's been in I always confuse those two guys. He's been in like Gosford Park, Capote, stuff like that. But you recognize
Close
him.
Encounters.
Close Encounters, yeah.
You would recognize him if you're thinking of Wallace Shawn.
Yeah, they look so similar in their thumbnail.
They do.
So.
And then, Jeff Goldblum is Duke. Fun fact, Jeff Goldblum recorded all of his lines over the phone because he couldn't make it to the recording sessions.
Yeah, I like his character a lot too, Duke. Like, he's got all the rumors.
Yeah, he just likes gossip.
Yeah, he explains himself. Like, where do you hear this stuff from?
But their motivations are all, they're all these pretty well-crafted characters, but they're all motivated by, common dog things, and they don't make cheap dog jokes. It's almost like this movie's filled with heady philosophical dog jokes about how would a dog actually be motivated to do the things that they do.
Yeah, gives a voice to dog culture.
Yes.
Is it dog appropriation? Maybe. I don't know. Who's gonna fight for that?
I would say more so than Japanese.
Yeah, but yeah, dude, I loved this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's very well written. It's like. It gives a little bit of what I like about Wes Anderson movies. The characters are more interesting than in Fantastic Mr. Fox. The cast is more even than Life Aquatic. I don't like it as much as Life Aquatic, but I liked it more than I expected it to.
I want to see him work with this medium again too, because I think, and I noticed this watching both Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs, there's whatever animation studio he's teaming up with, whoever's in charge of all of that, has created these puppets with really emotive eyes. And one of the things I definitely noticed in Isle of Dogs is that like every character at some point cries. And you can see the water tearing up in their eyes when it happens.
Very effective too. Like every emotional string they pull works for me.
Yeah. Like just the eyes on the puppets alone. I don't know what it was that was drawing me to them, but sometimes that's all you would get because Wes Anderson's a big fan of close-ups, and his animated movies aren't any different than that. So when you get a close-up of like, you know, Bryan Cranston's character Chief, he's this stark black dog with these really blue eyes, and they just stand out in this really interesting way. And it's just, again, it's like a perfection of Wes Anderson's oeuvre, if you want to use a heady word.
I
like
pronounce that oeuvre.
Oeuvre.
Yeah. So I love this movie. You love this movie. We came around. This might be the one we agree on the most, but it's interesting because to me it's like middle Wes Anderson, middle upper half Wes Anderson.
Yeah,
Like,
I would say so. Just based on recent memory, I'm still saying Grand Budapest Hotel is my favorite.
So yeah, I will get into that one for sure.
Yeah,
because we're gonna do this
yeah.
again. So my top 3 right now, which is not official because we have to watch them all, is like Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, Grand Budapest.
Okay,
That's my top 3, and then there's somewhere in the middle is Isle of Dogs and other films, and then definitely at the end is Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's my least favorite, but again, like it's a high bar because like it's a very good movie. It's just my least favorite Wes Anderson movie.
yeah, he's a competent filmmaker. I can see the critiques. I understand why somebody could despise Wes Anderson because he does kind of do the same thing in every movie. But like I said, the guy's his own fucking genre. Like he's never not made a Wes Anderson movie, literally.
Yeah, and you know what? That as you say that, I think that is why Fantastic Mr. Fox is my least favorite because someone else could do that movie. I don't think anyone else could do these other movies. I think Fantastic Mr. Fox would be the most easily replicated of these movies.
Maybe, but it's still a distinctly Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, I mean, for one, just the cast alone, like it just feels right because of that. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would recommend all of these. Even though I didn't love Tenenbaums, I understand and recognize that I'm the fucking black sheep on that. And that
Are you? I don't know. I don't know how it held up. I was surprised.
I was looking at critical reviews, and most people, most of the big critics at least, the one that I usually gravitate towards is Leonard Maltin, and he gave it like 2.5 stars, and he said it looked good, but he didn't really see the point, and that's kind of how I feel.
Okay.
I didn't see the fucking point. I didn't buy the characters. I don't know
Leonard
if
Maltin is soulless, so
it could be a victim of overhype, where I just worked myself up over the years to think that this was going to be one of the greatest ensemble movies I've ever seen.
Hey man, it's all subjective, like
Yeah.
to what you bring into it.
But that's what we do on this show. Like maybe someone else hasn't seen Royal Tenenbaums, and this is going to be the thing that they either want to prove me wrong and say that they love it, or they'll just avoid it now because they don't give a shit.
Now, as far as 2018 films, I've been trying to do a better job of having more consistent rankings.
Okay.
So when we get to the end of the year, I can feel more true to my rankings. I have Isle of Dogs right now as number 2 of the 19
Really?
films I've seen. Yeah. Phantom Thread, again, Asterix is number 1. Annihilation is number 3. And Isle of Dogs is in between those two. What it comes down to is, like, I really enjoy Annihilation. But I feel like Isle of Dogs like mastered everything it wanted to do. It was so well put together, and these are two filmmakers at different points in their career. Where Alex Garland, I think, is just not made his best film yet. Hopefully,
Yeah, I can see that being the case.
Ex Machina, former film of the year for me. And then it's early, man. Like I don't even know. I don't expect Isle of Dogs and Annihilation to stay that high in my rankings. I think there's a lot more to come.
Yeah. The year is still young. April just started. I will say this: looking back through everything that I've watched this year, as far as stuff that came out in 2018, I'm putting Isle of Dogs at number 1. Actually.
Okay, so you haven't seen Phantom Thread, so we kind of agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Phantom Thread. It's coming out soon though on VOD, so I'll be checking it out before too long.
Cool. Anything else you want to say about Wes Anderson movies?
If you guys haven't, go watch the honest trailers for Wes Anderson movies. They point out a lot of the same things we do, but it's only because Wes Anderson's tropes and the things he does are so obvious. Like we get it. You like zoom pans, you like slow-mo, you like profile shots, you like people getting punched in the face, you like uniforms. Yeah, like We get it. It's fun. It's one of the better honest trailers. Also, if you have not yet, please subscribe. We need our numbers to go up. Because we're always going to need our numbers to go up. We're a young, growing podcast.
Yeah, and we don't have any corporate sponsorship or celebrities endorsing us. So.
You didn't get one commercial in this whole episode. That was a serious, and you could tell, too, because there were times where we didn't know what we were saying. It was a stream of consciousness.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
So, we're on Twitter. We're on the Facebook for now.
Frank does all that work. So if you see something you don't like, blame him, not me.
Yeah, for sure. Come at me, because, I definitely am unfiltered on those. On those formats, and then we're on Instagram too. So our photos, we give you a heads up on what our podcasts are going to be about, what we're watching. So if you want to, talk about these movies with us, I like to do that with movie podcasts. If I know what they're going to watch, you can watch it ahead of time and then see if you agree or disagree with us, or just wait to the finished product and get a recommendation or stay away. In the end, these 4 movies, I would definitely recommend going in the theaters to see Isle of Dogs.
Absolutely. Get to a theater soon to see that.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen any of Wes Anderson's movies, I think the good starting point is either Life Aquatic or Royal Tenenbaums. It's not a bad way to go, just doing them in order, because I think, Tenenbaums suffers for you because you didn't see it in the chronological order.
There's value to doing them in the order that he made them.
But you can't go wrong with any 4 of these movies.
No. I didn't love Tenenbaums, but you very well could. I think Steve Zissou is the stronger one. If you've never seen a Wes Anderson movie before, that's the one that I'm absolutely recommending to start with. Also, we got a little far away from it, but also give us a review on iTunes.
Oh yeah, they're free. They cost you nothing but time. You just go on if you're listening to us on iTunes, you just go on the app. There's you go click our podcast picture, and it has a little thing there where it says rate and review.
Yeah.
It takes no time. You can write something in there. If you're funny, or if you even try to be funny, I will read it on the show. And then we've talked about doing giveaways and stuff, and we'll get to that eventually. But it's a very easy way to share the love. I think the indie podcast community has been a pleasant surprise. And I think that's really cool. So if you're listening to indie podcast and you want to hear more of stuff like this, that is just 2 guys being honest about, the movies without any kind of payoff or affiliation or access, I mean, what more could you ask for? Help us help you.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Thanks guys. Thanks for listening. If you've made it this far through, you can go to bed now. Turn it off. Go to bed.
Bye-bye.
I've lost all of my pride. I've been to paradise and out the other side, with no one to guide me, torn apart by a fiery wheel inside me. I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you. An untouched diamond that's golden and brilliant without illumination. Your mouth's a constellation. The stars are in your eyes. I'll take a spaceship and try and go and find you. I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you, I won't hurt you. Pale blue star, my rainbow